And very briefly, guys, I don't want to disturb her too much because she is gravid. She's due to lay on the 2nd of July. This is my ivory, leopard ivory or silky way. So this is a super yellow belly, 2 copies of yellow belly in her. So here we have the male for the project. This is a male asphalt. Hi guys, it's Rob from Royal Balls. Finally, today we're going to talk about Allelic or ALS projects. We're going to be using freeways as an example. Freeways are the asphalt and yellow belly complex, and the added difficulty with this Allelic complex is that asphalt and yellow belly are actually very difficult to tell apart, and so if you breed the wrong combinations you end up with a bunch of snakes that all look the same and you don't know whether they're asphalts or yellow bellies. So we're going to look at this as an example and try to figure out how we can avoid that dilemma. If you're working on a different Allelic complex, highways for instance, you can just substitute gravel and yellow belly. If you're working on vanilla creams, you can substitute fire and vanilla. They all work exactly the same way, with the added advantage that many Allelic complexes, the genes involved actually look quite different, so you don't actually have the problem of trying to sort out the offspring. So we'll use the most difficult of the combos in order to show how I manage my Allelic projects. We run through a large number of scenarios, so I realise this video is not for everybody, but if you are working Allelic complexes, I'm sure there's something here that will interest you. Okay, now that we understand what supers are, and in this case we've used the super form of pastel to illustrate how supers work, I'm going to introduce a new concept. I'm going to introduce the concept of allelic genes. These are genes that reside in the same complex. There are many of them. Asphalt and yellow belly is the freeway. Gravel and yellow belly is the highway. Mojave and lesser would be the blue-eyed leucistic complex, and fire and vanilla is the vanilla cream complex. These are all examples of allelic combinations. What exactly does that mean, and what does it look like genetically? We are going to enlist the help of the scales artist. Thank you, Rizal, for providing an example of a freeway, which is a perfect example of an allelic complex. So this is a freeway. It is composed of the allelic asphalt and yellow belly, and you can see it produces a quite different snake to what you would expect if you combine those genes. It looks nothing like the original components, and that is because it is allelic. It forms part of the yellow belly or super stripe complex, if you want to call it that. There are a number of genes contained within that group of genes, all of which are allelic. Yellow belly, spectre, spark, orange belly, gravel, asphalt, which produces a striped snake, which is why it's called the super stripe complex. So this is freeway, and we're going to use freeway as an example of our allelic project because I actually have a clutch of freeways this season myself, hopefully. So this is the freeway from the scales artist. This is what we're trying to make, and this is how I go about managing ALS or allelic combinations as part of a project. We're going to use yellow for yellow belly and red for asphalt, and yellow belly and asphalt are 2 completely different genes. They look fairly similar, but that's not necessarily the case with allelic complexes. Fire and vanilla you can tell apart. Mojave and lesser you can tell apart. it gets a little more tricky with asphalt, gravel and yellow belly. So we have our copy of yellow belly and we have our copy of asphalt. They both carry exactly the same key to exactly the same location on the genetic code. So if we plug in yellow belly at the location that it has a key for, then you can also fit a copy of asphalt at exactly the same location on the opposite side of the allele. So effectively this is a superform, except when you split the genetic material in half to produce your offspring, the offspring are not going to get a copy of the same gene. 50% of them will get a copy of yellow belly and 50% of them will get a copy of asphalt. So let's go ahead and produce our freeway. How do we produce a freeway? Well, exactly as we did for the superform of pastel, we must have a copy of the gene in both parents. So we have a yellow belly male and an asphalt female. What happens when we breed them together? Well, we split the genetic code in half and in half, and we take this half of the male that is not carrying a copy of the gene, pair it to this half of the female, and we get one copy of asphalt. We pair it to this half of the female and we get no copies of anything. Let's take the yellow belly side of the male, so this half of the male now combined with this half of the female, and now we are getting the allelic combination of yellow belly and asphalt. So this square here is the superform of an allelic combination, which is yellow belly and asphalt, which is a freeway. This is a visual freeway. We take this side of the male and pair to this side of the female, and we get one copy of yellow belly. So you will notice again that this is a fairly similar outcome to pairing a pastel to a pastel. 1 in 4 is the superform, and in this case 1 in 4 is the superform of asphalt and yellow belly, which is the freeway. We also have a 1 in 4 chance of getting a normal. That was exactly the same as with pairing pastel to pastel, but this time 1 in 4 is going to be yellow belly and 1 in 4 is going to be asphalt. So instead of both of these being pastel in an allelic complex, this square is occupied by one of the genes and this square is occupied by the other gene, and this works for all the allelic complexes. It works for gravel and yellow belly, it works for Mojave and lesser, it works for fire and vanilla, exactly the same way. So when we pair yellow belly to asphalt, in this case, we are going to get 1 in 4 freeways, and 50% of the babies will be carrying one gene or the other. So let's assume that we have our freeway. We've made a freeway. Here it is. Here's our freeway, and we're going to breed that to a normal female. What is going to be the outcome of that particular pairing? Remember, this is a visual freeway. We take the genetic material and split it in half, and each baby is going to receive half the material from each parent. So we take this side of the male, which is carrying the yellow belly gene at that allele, pair it to that half of the female, and we get one copy of yellow belly. Pair it to this half of the female, and we get one copy of yellow belly. We take this half of the male that's carrying the asphalt gene on the opposite side of the allele to yellow belly, and we pair to this half of the female and get one copy of asphalt, and we pair to this half of the female and get one copy of asphalt. So just as with the super, every single square receives a copy of a gene. There are no normals, and that is why we refer to allelic complexes as acting like supers. They act in exactly the same way. The difference here is that half of them receive a copy of one gene and half the babies receive a copy of the other. The same rules apply. You breed a freeway, it cannot reproduce itself. You will get no freeways if you breed a freeway to a normal. So just as with a superform, the allelic combo also cannot reproduce itself, but you will get no normals. Now, one of the issues that we have when we work these projects is that, unfortunately for us, asphalt and yellow belly look exactly the same. You cannot tell them apart. The only way that you can tell them apart is when you breed them. If you get 2 copies of yellow belly, you get an ivory. If you get 2 copies of asphalt, you get a super asphalt. And if you get a copy of yellow belly and asphalt, you get a freeway. That is the only way that you can tell what genes are at play in the combination. Looking at the babies, you are very hard pressed to tell them apart, which gives us a problem when we breed allelic complexes. Sometimes the offspring that we produce are not normals, but we can't tell which of the 2 genes, asphalt or yellow belly, or gravel and yellow belly, we can't tell which of the genes the offspring has received, and that's why on Morph Market you will often see yellow belly / asphalt or yellow belly / gravel. From the pairing and the visual appearance, we just simply cannot tell them apart. How do we manage that in our allelic complex projects? We breed freeway to freeway, right? And everything should be freeways. That's logical, correct? Well, actually not. When you breed a freeway to a freeway, let me show you what happens. The genetic material is split in half, and this half is carrying yellow belly, this half is carrying asphalt. The genetic material is split in half, this half is carrying asphalt, this half is carrying yellow belly. So freeway to freeway gives. Pair this half of the male to this half of the female, and we're okay there. We get yellow belly asphalt, so we get a freeway. But we pair it to the other half of the female, and oh dear, we get 2 copies of yellow belly. We actually get an ivory. Let's take this half of the male and pair it to this half of the female, and we get 2 copies of asphalt. We get a super asphalt. We pair this half of the male to this half of the female, and yes, we're okay again there. We get a freeway. So when you breed freeway to freeway, you actually get only 50% of the babies will be freeways. You will get a super asphalt and you will get an ivory. That may not be the outcome that you want. We're trying to produce as many freeways as possible. What happens if we breed a freeway to a yellow belly? This is the male, he's a freeway. This is the female, she's a yellow belly. We take this half of the male, breed it to this half of the female, and we get 1 copy of asphalt. We take this half of the male to this half of the female, and we get a freeway. Yay! We take the other half of the male and breed it to this half of the female, and we get 1 copy of yellow belly. We take this half of the male and breed it to this half of the female, and we get 2 copies of yellow belly. We get an ivory. So when we breed a freeway to a yellow belly, we're going to get 1 freeway. That's easy enough to identify, but it's only 1 in 4. We're only getting 1 in 4 freeways. We'll get 1 ivory, which is easy to recognise. It's a white snake, so you know that that is an ivory. That has 2 copies of yellow belly. What about these 2 snakes here? One has asphalt, one has yellow belly. Visually they're the same. We do not know which is which. Perhaps that's not a desirable outcome either, because of the uncertainty in, well, which animals do I keep back and which animals do I sell? What do I sell them as? The key to an allelic project is the superform of one of the genes or the other. It is not the allelic complex itself. So the key to the freeway project is to use an ivory, which is the super yellow belly, or to use a super asphalt with another snake which combines one of the genes. Let's do that. We've made our ivory, and the ivory is the female, and we're going to use an asphalt male with this female. So here we have the male for the project. This is a male asphalt, but you would not be able to tell this apart from a yellow belly. If we have a look underneath the snake, it looks exactly like a yellow belly would look like. The head stamp looks exactly like a yellow belly. The flaming up the sides looks exactly like a yellow belly. You would be hard pressed to distinguish this from a yellow belly, but this is actually asphalt, and that is part of the problem with some of these allelic complexes where the parent genes look identical. Asphalt and yellow belly in this particular case are impossible to distinguish, although they end up with very different results when you pair your snakes. So it's important to know what you have, and the only way to do that is by controlling your breeding program and deciding what to pair with what, so that you do not end up with snakes that you do not know exactly what they are. So, asphalt, this is the male for the freeway project. And very briefly guys, I don't want to disturb her too much because she is gravid. She's due to lay on the 2nd of July. This is my ivory, leopard ivory or silky way. So this is a super yellow belly, 2 copies of yellow belly in her. So we'll put her back so that she's not disturbed too much. How does that help us in terms of what we are going to produce? This is a pairing that I am doing this year. I am using my super yellow belly or ivory female, who is also leopard, silky way, and I am pairing her with an asphalt. And I do not want to be left in a position where I can't tell the difference in some of the offspring, whether they're yellow bellies, whether they're asphalts, or whether they are normals. But because I'm using the super form of one of the genes, and in this case it's an ivory, a super yellow belly, let's see what happens. So we split the genetic material in half. We take this half of the male, which is not carrying a copy of anything, breed it to this half of the female. 1 copy of yellow belly, that's a yellow belly. Or the other half of the female, 1 copy of yellow belly, that's a yellow belly. We take this half of the male, which is carrying the asphalt gene, pair it to this half of the female, 1 copy of yellow belly, 1 copy of asphalt, that is a freeway. This half of the male to this half of the female, that is a freeway. So I'm getting 50% of the babies being freeways, which is a better outcome than freeway to freeway. But because I used the super form here, all of the offspring that are not freeways are yellow bellies. I could do it the other way around. I could use a super asphalt with a yellow belly. When we split the super asphalt, every offspring is going to get a copy of the asphalt gene because it's on both sides of the allele. So we take this half of the male to this half of the female. We get 1 copy of yellow belly, 1 copy of asphalt, we get a freeway. This half of the male to this half of the female, 1 copy of asphalt. We take this half of the male, pair it to this half of the female, and we get 1 copy of asphalt and 1 copy of yellow belly. We take this half of the male, pair it to this half of the female, and we get 1 copy of asphalt. So again, we're getting 50% of the babies are going to be freeways. In this particular case, because we used a super asphalt, all the babies which are not freeways are asphalt, 100% certain. So using a super form of yellow belly and ivory. Anything that's not freeway is yellow belly automatically. Using a super asphalt with a yellow belly, anything which is not freeway is going to be asphalt automatically. The super form is the key to managing your allelic complexes. Whichever allelic complex you are working with, if you wish to remove the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the offspring, you need the super form. Of course, if we pair two super forms, a super asphalt to an ivory, that would be the ideal solution, because everything's going to be freeway. If you need to produce freeways, pair a super asphalt to a super yellow belly or ivory and everything will be freeway, because it doesn't matter what combination you choose, everything is going to come out with one copy of asphalt and one copy of yellow belly. Okay, so when you're looking at allelic complexes, the gene on each side of the allele is actually a different gene, but the same rules apply. An allelic complex cannot reproduce itself. You will get one or the other, and in order to produce the allelic complex you must have a copy of the gene in both parents, and in this case it's a different gene, it's yellow belly and asphalt, to produce the allelic complex, but it has to be present in both parents. One copy in one, the other copy in the other. So if you wish to manage your allelic complexes, use the super form, not the allelic complex. So there you go guys, the allelic or ALS complexes, that's how I manage them, that's how I avoid the difficulty of producing asphalt versus yellow belly and not being able to tell them apart. So we'll see from the next clutch of eggs whether the theory works in practice. We should get a bunch of freeways with all the remaining offspring that are not freeways being yellow belly, so there'll be no doubt about what they are. Let's hope that actually works. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.